Nazi Germany, history's central villain of the costly Great War of the 20th century. Despite a driven army, powerful allies, and neighbors fearing them, Germany ultimately lost. But was it by their own design? Welcome to Bizarre History. Today we look at Germany's World War I downfall and the Schlieffen Plan that cost them dearly. You're Germany on the verge of the outbreak of World War I. To the south you have an ally in the Austro Hungary Empire, but it's ready to go to war with a nation next door called Serbia. To the east you have Russia, a longtime foe, always giving you the fear of invasion. Yet both of you have vested interests in avoiding war with one another. Flying in the face of this, Russia is very much on Serbia's side in their disagreement with Austro-Hungary. To the west you have France, another longtime rival that quite uncomfortably has made a pact of peace and allegiance with Russia. Not looking so good for you, huh? A little bit cramped, maybe? Germany was bang in the middle of all this European empire politics and was staring down the barrel of a grim reality. In the event of their choosing, Germany could be invaded on opposing sides of its borders by two separate foes. While the Great War unraveled into conflict due to a handful of events in as many days, Germany saw no reason to leave itself a sitting duck. Desperate times call for desperate measures, so Germany turned to an old invasion plan it could suddenly view as a method of self-defense. As the General Chief of Staff for the German Army until 1906, General Alfred von Schlieffen was the man wielding and using the military to uphold Germany's might. He devised a purely reactive plan in its use and somewhat short-sighted in its overall design. The fears of using it were real, that should be stated. Germany could be attacked by two foes on two opposing borders. Furthermore, a legitimate and considered concern over the vulnerability of the nation was down to numbers. It was understood Germany's army simply could not afford a war of attrition. It would easily be outnumbered in infantry at a ratio of 5-3, so a plan was made. In the event of not wanting a two-front war, Germany would go and try to win one front before dealing with the other. Initially, an attack plan for invading the French Third Republic. The entire design was to surprise and flank France by invading Belgium and the Netherlands. Believably or not, in order to avoid France's well-defended border with Germany, the Schlieffen Plan devised to go through Belgium and pincer those defenses from the north and west of them. In theory, with French border forces being attacked from the behind as well as defending the border they were on, the French would be forced to retreat south and all would be well. Quite the maneuver when drawn on a grand map or written down on paper. Yet, as we will examine, its roaring impracticality came back to haunt it. The worldview it was drawn from was behind the times and unaware of being so. This desire to knock out France and avoid a two-front war was no success, in huge part down to the fact it had no contingency or alternative, no plan B. Amazingly, this revered and ultimately activated plan had no consideration of what to do in the event of succeeding. There was no plan beyond France. Globe-conquering warfare. Good to know it was conducted with a hit and hope philosophy. Spoiler alert, for those of you unaware of the outcome, this incredibly ambitious military plan did not go to plan. Where to begin? Well, Belgium. Though the initial plan, crafted by the man it was named after, had both Belgium and the Netherlands as arenas to be invaded on the way to confronting France, this had to change from the off. The Netherlands was left alone in fear of important supply and trade routes for Germany being affected by invasion. On the other hand, Belgium was neutral and seen as a valid route. So confident were Germany of its neutrality that Germany communicated to Belgium in advance that it should be offered free passage on its way to invade France. This was notoriously declined with the declaration that Belgium was a nation and not a road. Just a nail in the coffin of this grandiose effort. Belgium's neutrality was being guarded by Britain, meaning When Belgium was invaded, the British had no choice but to declare war on Germany. Turns out Belgium was quite the costly excursion, not the easy, brief trip that was imagined. The raging impracticality of executing the Schlieffen Plan was apparent within a day of it taking place. Its success and advance, location for location, had not taken into account what would be required in manpower. While Germany's first line and primary military force was among the best in the world, and certainly continent, it would be stretched in the event of a multiple cross-border evasion. Though enough frontline troops to fight a war, the entire quest was costly and not without fierce resistance. The reserves and conscripts available to Germany did not have the proficiency and capability that the plan demanded. The plan stretched Germany's military even before there was any call to defend the Eastern Front from Russian mobilization. They wanted to take the city of Liège badly because it was a major transport hub thanks to its railway. Transport means were everything to the success of the plan. Knowing this, the Belgians and French destroyed any railroad tracks as they retreated. They didn't stop the Germans, who, given the attempt, had no choice but to rebuild the demolished tracks as they came across them. The desire of getting through Belgium with speed did not happen, most evidenced by the siege of Liège. Germany's plans and prediction were to take it in 48 hours, just 2 days. The resistance they met held them back for 2 entire weeks. In the early 20th century, at the break of the Great War, technology was a fair bit behind the incredible instancy of today. The telegraph and use of radio was the most advanced technology of the time. Unfortunately for Germany, the technology affordable to them simply couldn't match up to the demands of the Schlieffen Plan. This sweeping master move of global 3D chess, intended to take entire states in matters of hours, was in clear need of pretty radical communication. Probably not considered at the time of its creation, but superior command would need to know, and fast, if the Schlieffen Plan takes any kind of hitch. Furthermore, they need to respond, and respond fast. Radio and telegraphs would have been a fair rapid form of communication, if maybe not rapid enough. However, these were not available as needed. While positions of command and bases would have had these, the front lines were devoid of easily found telegraph and radios. In fact, pigeons and flags were still the prime means of communication from the front lines of World War I. The instancy of any communication was at the mercy of the speed at which a bird could fly, should it survive any run-ins with the debut of artillery. This doomed any command from up high to be hopelessly behind real-time happenings and hopelessly giving orders for what had already been and gone. Chief of Staff von Moltke was no Schlieffen. Either that or Schlieffen's plan wasn't even that great. Somehow between the plan and the man in charge of it in World War I, some glaring issues were looked over. The Schlieffen Plan was not exactly a cutting-edge, ear-to-the-ground kind of deal. Amazingly, its lack of consideration for Russia was deeply harnessed in a view 10 years out of date. Russia is kind of poo-pooed in the plan as a weak and impotent force. This in itself is strategic irony for a plan designed to fend off a war of attrition. If you're scared of being vastly outnumbered, just ignore the nearest enemy with the biggest military. Who knows, maybe they'll just magically disappear. In any case, this proposed ignorance of Russian capability was built upon their failure in the 1904 Russo-Japanese War. In defense of this projection, Russia's prestige and standing in the eyes of the world was dented and tarnished by this loss. However, as history has shown us many times, those in the midst of revolution are often undergoing significant growth. Russia in the decade that followed the war had significant industrial advances. Most importantly in this case, its railroads advanced, giving Russia military deployment capabilities it had never had before. A huge stand of the Schlieffen Plan's laissez-faire towards Russia was the presumption it could not defend or mobilize in a timely fashion up against a well-executed plan. Imagine how cold Moltke's blood ran when he was asked to bring 1 million men to the Eastern Front as the Russians had magically mobilized. Thanks for watching Bizarre History. To watch more about historical figures from the past, make sure to subscribe and check out our playlist and the videos up on your screen. I definitely think you'd like our next video about Otto Skorzeny, the untold story of Hitler's deadliest Nazi general.